So there's this guy on Twitter, and I swear he only comes out of his hole, crawls out, and comments on two occasions. One is when uranium is down, and he wants to call people out and say, I told you so. Okay, well done. You've called out all the pullbacks. Well done. In a blazing bull market. And the other occasion is when he sees that there's a company that's doing well and he doesn't really see many people talk about that particular company. And then he gets really upset, how all the influencers are missing this company and how did they not see this when he didn't see it either. Anyway, I'm not going to give any more light into this. Let's go into the topic of 3 uranium stocks to look at right now. These are not going to be my usual nano caps, which are the tiny little companies that have a lot of potential and torque. I'm talking about the larger companies that may have some potential on their own. So I'm going to start out with the really boring ones, and then I'm going to get to the one that this particular Twitterer person has been harping on about. Okay, so bear with me. Number one is take a look at Cameco and Kazatomprom. They're the 2 largest producers. If you're new to the thesis and you want to be backstopped by actual producing countries with some level of certainty, if you can even have certainty in mining or energy, then I would go for these 2 companies. And I would not recommend anybody going for just one, especially Kazatomprom. So Kazatomprom is in Kazakhstan, and they have a few issues there with the geography and political situation in the surrounding countries, where there is a little thing called the Russian versus Ukraine war. And that has made their lives really difficult in shipping product out. Highly radioactive product, may I add. And insurance is difficult when you're in a war zone trying to pass radioactive product through. You understand what I'm trying to say, right? Like, I don't need to go into it. They are the lowest cost producer for sure. And you know that if you've been following this thesis for any length of time. So they do make money. There's free cash flow happening there. And at these levels, they are making a lot of money if they can sell at these levels, with good contracts. They have been jumping into bed with the Russians and the Chinese quite a bit. So much so they needed their shareholders to sign off on a couple of deals that they did with the Chinese recently, but they're still the cheapest guys around. Yes, there is a bit of a question mark regarding getting chemicals, and because of that reason, they are not likely to be able to ramp up production as much as possible. But let's face it, getting chemicals is likely not a life-threatening deal because eventually I think they're going to be able to get them. So something to watch for. I think everything is going to take longer for them, but they're already, running well. But you have a clear geopolitical issues. So to offset that, I would look at Cameco, especially after the deal with Westinghouse. They own a lot more of each step of the nuclear fuel cycle. A lot of their assets are in Canada, high grade, super safe jurisdiction as it pertains to mining, and things look good. Obviously, there's a question mark of how well the company is going to run with the mining plus the Westinghouse part of it, department, I guess. But all in all, it's 2 good companies that came together, and we hope that that's not going to mean a bad company combined. And you don't have most geopolitical issues, and their projects are quite high grade. They are the game in town in the Athabasca Basin, as in they own the operating mines. And I think that in order for other people to come into production in the region, I have a feeling that they would have to, in a way, get permission from the boss. And they're the boss. Let's just be honest. They're the boss in that region. Which brings me to company number 2, because I'll just consider these 2 producers company number 1. Company number 2 would be Denison. Yes, I know, also in the region, in the Athabasca Basin, to a side of the Athabasca Basin, that is where the mines are already located. So Denison has pretty much all the right ingredients going for it. The only problem is that Denison has been well known in the industry since forever, so there isn't much torque. I don't expect it to all of a sudden blow up, but I think for big money coming in, for big funds and things of that nature, that, you know, when they have had their party with Cameco and Kazatomprom, the next level down will most definitely include Denison. High quality projects, possibly a very good ISR technology in a really interesting region where ISR isn't common. They seem to have broken through that, allegedly. I'll believe it when I see it, but I trust that they've done it. Great management, and they actually hold a lot of uranium. This is interesting. They're sitting on a bunch of uranium. I'm not going to tell you how much. I'm not going to give you details to any of these companies because I want you to go out and do your own due diligence. Plus, I don't want to get the numbers wrong because I don't do public math, especially on video. But at these levels, they could really sell and have a lot of their capex covered just by selling the uranium they hold, like a big chunk of it, which makes their projects even more interesting and is just an all-around complete company. So don't ignore Denison. Like I said, I don't believe it's going to be a three-bagger in 3 months, but I've seen weirder things happen in this industry, and it's a good company. It's just a good company. Okay. Next, number 3 is the one and only company that came out of absolutely nowhere, and people have started talking about it. You ready for this? Okay, I'm going to show you this right now. The Energy Corp. The ticker is SASK, which tells you, yes, they're partly located in Saskatchewan, which is where the Athabasca Basin is. Now, you can see here that they've only been trading since April. And you would have lost money had you bought it here, really any time before, excluding this little part here. There's a dip in late summer where you could have bought it and made a profit. And apart from that, you would have lost money. It's a company that kind of came out of nowhere. Nobody really realized where they were going and what the strategy was and what was happening with it and to it. And people are taking notice now, because now what they have done is they have come together and done 3 things all at once. Let me tell you what these three things are. They bought 2 companies. They're actually in the process of, they still need to get, you know, lawyers signed and shareholders approved, etc. But it looks like it's going to go through. But they made a bid for 2 companies. And they're raising money at the same time. Not that they didn't have any money to begin with, because these guys have a very high level background. You know, they're not your usual. Okay, I don't want to name any names or say anything unsavory, but they're not average people. Let's just put it this way. Okay, they're not your average CEO. So let's look into what they did. They bought 92 Energy, which we just call it 92E. That's listed in the ASX. And they also bought Latitude and Uranium. When I say that they bought, it's like they bid for them. It's not closed yet. Okay. And it seems like their idea is to just buy all the companies / projects that are high grade in Canada. It seems to me that that's where they're going. I haven't spoken to management. I don't know this for a fact, but it goes into detail about the deal here. But there's one interesting slide that I saw here. Yes, there's the Angelak deposit, which is high-grade uranium deposit in Nunavut. I'm sure you've heard about that in this channel before. And there's Newfoundland. There is the Athabasca Basin through 92 Energy. And you just have a lot of pounds in the ground that other companies have delineated, whether, you know, recently or years ago, and they're going into it and then just buying things up, building a diversified portfolio of exploration assets for maximum exploration torque. Yeah, this is unprecedented in this. I don't want to say in this market, because it's not like this hasn't happened before, but this particular bull market that we're going through, you haven't seen companies do such high-level acquisitions of well-established companies with the type of quality that we're seeing here for such speed, because they've done this very quickly. I mean, they started trading, as far as we can see here, in April, unless they moved from Australia. I'm not quite sure about this, but these guys have amassed so many millions of pounds. You can go and check it out on the website, and you can check all the numbers and what it's going to look like after the acquisition, but it's so many millions of pounds kind of hidden from anybody else. And that's a bit of a shocker. And then you go into, who the people are, which is the basis of every investment in this industry. And you see that, their CEO is a former next gen and chemical guy. Okay, uranium all over the place. The chairman is a money guy with Canaccord, Access Capital, Research Capital. Then you have directors all with Chemical and Deloitte, Raymond James, Canaccord, etc. I mean, this could easily be a company that is tiny and that's looking to do small things in undisclosed locations around the world and just collect checks and have this be something that is a little boat that floats with everything else. But they have quietly amassed some really interesting assets, and they didn't really make much noise about it. Their thing wasn't the promo. Their thing was about doing acquisitions behind the scenes while retail wasn't really paying attention. And now that retail is having their shares of Latitude and 92 being bought at 68 and 80% premiums, and now everybody's like, Alpha Energy, who are they? What are they up to? What is the purpose here? And I'll tell you, I've never seen a company being built to this size so quickly. I just haven't. You can have two companies come together in a merger and do that, but it usually takes decades for them to get to a size where it makes sense for them to do that. These guys have just been exploiting a quiet period in the market for the equities and doing deals that are really interesting. So I commend them for that. And I am watching them, not because they have just made a fresh purchase. That tells you of things to come, and that makes everything very interesting. But most importantly is because now they're getting to a certain size, they're getting to a certain level of liquidity that they are very likely going to be added to ETFs. And I do expect some buying pressure from ETFs and from retail investors that did not have Alpha Energy under their radar whatsoever. Now, if you're wondering what is next for them, I don't know. You'd have to literally be an insider, and then you couldn't trade on the news because that would be illegal and immoral. But I do know that somebody related to this company has gone out and claimed a whackload, a boatload of land all around this one project that belongs to this one company that hasn't yet been bought out. Do you want to know what it is? Right here. That's the company right there. Enjoy.